I made a ghost communication app, and I think a demon spoke to me. I just wanted to start out by saying I was, and still am, mostly very skeptical about paranormal stuff, but I believe it a little. I watch a lot of investigator YouTubers like Sam and Colby, and I've seen the equipment they use. I've also seen some others use apps on their phones, but I've always felt that phone apps could be easy to fake. So, I thought, I know how to code, I wonder if I could program my own app. I managed to get the code working, and basically, how my app works is it picks up either a tap on the screen or the phone physically moving. There's no EMF or anything. It's all actual physical touch. When it picks up one of those two, it randomly selects a word from a huge list of words and displays that word. I couldn't get the text-to-speech to work, so it just pops the word up on the screen. I sent the build to my phone and began testing it. I waited a while, and this was the first conversation I had. This is not the demon, just one of the tests. Me, is anyone there? My phone, Josh. Me, oh, hello Joshua, who are you? My phone, father. Me, oh, are you a father? My phone, no. Me, oh, are you asking me if I am a father? Yes, I am. My phone, wife. Me, wife? Do you mean my wife? My phone, danger. I immediately closed the app, freaked out, and went to check on my wife because that was weird. My wife, at the time, was also heavily pregnant and was due any day. Every time my wife has been pregnant, I've had a fear of her dying in childbirth. So, when it told me my wife was in danger that close to giving birth, it really got to me. That weekend, my wife went to the hospital and gave birth to our daughter, but during the birth, she, my wife, lost a lot of blood. So, seeing that message freaked me out even more. Everything was fine, and she is alive and well, but it still freaked me out. Now, going back to when I was testing the app's movement detection sensitivity and trying again to get TTS to work, I must have messed up somewhere. After I sent it to my phone and started it, it went nuts and cycled continuously through words, too fast for the TTS to say what word it picked up. But it did stop on 3 words and said them. Those words were demon, acknowledge, and me. As soon as I heard it say those words, I did not react audibly. I calmly picked up my phone, closed the app, and went back to making adjustments to the code. I have limited demonology knowledge, but I do know that if a demon asks for acknowledgement, you do not do it. This story is 100% true, and I have not even opened the app since this happened. Is there a demon in my house?
The reason I don't deliver pizza anymore. A few weeks back I was talking with some friends about past jobs and why we left them. It was after a few rounds of conversation, I had a memory resurface about an encounter I had on the road while I was delivering pizza. I wrote it down in my notes as soon as I could. This was about the beginning of fall, maybe start of winter. Things were just about to get cold in Texas. It was getting late and the sun was setting, and I got an order for a delivery down a dirt road to a farmhouse. No big deal, as I took these sort of orders all the time. I was no stranger to off the usual track orders. As I'm driving, I glanced between my map and the road, and noticed that this little dirt road was an offshoot of this main road that was under construction at the time. It was a bit difficult to spot at first, but I found it and drove down into the unpaved, packed dirt roads. At the time I was driving a Mazda, and it wasn't made for these sorts of conditions, so it was bumpy all the way through. The road itself was one of those winding dirt paths through a small thicket of trees, just your average backcountry road. I didn't really pay my surroundings much attention, as I was pretty well adjusted to creepy roads at this point, as living in a rural part of North Texas had desensitized me to dark, creepy roads. I arrived at the house shortly after, which was at the bottom of this steep hill. I parked on the top of it, right in front of the stop sign, thinking I wouldn't be long. I made my way down with the pizza, leaving my car on as I always do. I reach the door, ring the doorbell, and give the guy his food. He was a nice man, a little reserved from what I remember. I turned to leave, and when I looked back up to the top of the hill, I saw what I can only describe as a shadow figure, its shape only barely human, peeking out from behind the stop sign at me. As soon as it noticed me watching it, it ducked and ran in front of my car. I could see the lights of my car dim slightly, as if something passed in front of it. Immediately I got a cold feeling in my stomach and turned around and ran. I got in my car, checked to see if anything was in the back seat, and put my foot down without looking back. I made it out onto the main road and back to the pizza place where I took a very long bathroom break in order to think about what I just saw. Now, it could have just been an animal or my imagination, but I'll never forget that shape. It was like a human but built all wrong, jagged dark edges. I never could see any eyes, but I knew from the bottom of my soul that it was watching me. A few months later I quit, claiming that college was getting too much to handle. I still drive by that dirt road every so often. I refuse to go back down it ever again.
Reply, the one time I saw one. It was standing outside my bedroom door, reaching its head into my doorway and then retracting it. It did this until it was standing in the middle of the doorway. So creepy. My brother also saw one. This time was in my old apartment when he got up to use the restroom in the middle of the night. He said when he first saw it, it was startled like he wasn't supposed to be able to see it. And then it backed away from him like it was afraid of him.
Creepiest experience of my life. I'm a 26-year-old male. I've always believed in ghosts to a degree, but I also maintain a healthy level of skepticism. Anyway, this freaked me out. So I recently moved in with my older sister 'cause I'm down on my luck. Our mom died last year, and I'm only saying that because I feel like it makes the most sense to be her. So we had some drinks last night, Christmas Eve, and I woke up around 1 a.m. and went to the kitchen for water because I was dehydrated from drinking. When I was going back to my room, something caught my eye in the living room. I turned to look, and I felt like I could see a person sitting there, like the shape of someone in the dark. I was still buzzed, and my first thought was logically, if someone was here, they wouldn't just be chilling on the couch in the dark. So I decided not to freak myself out, and went back to bed. This morning my sister and I were talking, and she asked me if I ever felt like, you see someone in the corner at night. I told her, it's funny you say that because last night I went to the kitchen for water, and swore I saw someone on the couch. She was like, dude, I got up for water, and swore someone was sitting there too. Or something to that effect. Seriously gave me shivers.
Reply, brushed it off and said the mind must be playing tricks, until you realized she saw the same thing. This happened to me and my husband while staying at an old hotel for a wedding. We both saw a man with a top hat in our room at different times, and freaked out when we realized we saw the same thing. Lampshade was shaking. Felt like a bad presence, and we hardly slept. Eek.
Psychic grandmother? When I was young, 8 or maybe 9, I was fortunate enough to get to know my great-great-grandmother. Toward the end of her life, she was in a nursing home, as she was living alone and was having some issues. Once when my mom took me along on a visit, Grandma kept asking me, and only me, where my brother Nicholas was. I was an only child. I assumed she was mistaken and knew she had memory issues, so I never mentioned it to anyone, but also never forgot. Grandma passed within a couple of weeks. A couple of months later, I find out my mom is pregnant with my first sibling. The day he was born, and my parents told me his name, it all came back to me. Grandma was gone, but here was baby Nicholas. Still freaks me out 40 years later.
Unwanted passengers. I'm a taxi driver on weekend nights, and I've seen some things. The first time I encountered something strange was a couple of years ago, on Christmas, while driving past an old cemetery. One moment I was alone in the car, and the next, as I passed the cemetery, I noticed a shadow in the rearview mirror. I turned on the interior light and saw an old lady sitting in the middle of the back seat. I knew something was off. I decided to ask her where she wanted to go, but she didn't respond. I asked again, still nothing. Feeling uneasy, I turned off the free light and drove around for a few minutes. When I looked back again, she was gone. The second time was a week later, on New Year's. I was driving past the same cemetery when an old lady waved me down and climbed into the back seat. I asked her where she wanted to go, and she simply said, to the old part of town. It's not a big town, so we drove for just a few minutes. When we reached the old part of town, I looked back to let her know we had arrived, only to find the back seat empty. I've also heard stories from coworkers. One felt long hair brushing against their face while driving. Another saw a man with no arms or legs suddenly appear in the back seat. Some have even had customers ask, "Who's that person in the back?" when there was clearly no one there.
Thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe, like and comment if you enjoyed the video.